They set up the janitor as a joke on a blind date, until the CEO spoke and silence filled the room. It started as a harmless office prank. Everyone at Langley and Hart thought it would be hilarious to set up Carl, the company janitor, on a blind date. Carl was the quiet guy, always pushing a mop through the endless halls, fixing broken chairs and emptying trash bins without complaint. He was invisible to most, and honestly, that's exactly why they picked him. When he got the email invitation, Carl scratched his head. It was elegantly written, fancy fonts, as if it came from a professional dating service. He hesitated for a moment. He wasn't used to people noticing him, but something inside nudged him to accept. The night of the date, the restaurant was buzzing with soft chatter and candlelight. Carl, wearing his modest gray work jacket over a simple white shirt, nervously adjusted his tie. Across the table sat Jessica, a colleague from marketing who had been in on the prank. She had been instructed to act like she'd been excited about meeting him for weeks. At first, Carl stumbled through conversation. His words were simple, unpolished, almost awkward. But then, as the night wore on, something remarkable happened. Carl's genuine warmth, his quiet humor, and his uncanny ability to make people feel seen slowly started to shine through. Jessica, who had expected to giggle behind her hand, found herself leaning in, listening intently. She laughed at his small jokes, shared stories of her own, and realized that the man before her had a kind of honesty she rarely encountered. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Carl, the restaurant's VIP room had filled with some of the company's top executives for a late dinner. When the CEO of Langley and Hart, Mr. Gregory, walked in, he noticed Carl. Gregory had a reputation, stern, no-nonsense, sharp as a tack. But tonight something made him pause. He watched Carl help the waitress steady a wobbly tray, quietly compliment a young server, and patiently listen to Jessica's story about her dog. There was a humility, a softness in Carl that cut through the superficiality of the room. Curious, the CEO leaned toward the nearest colleague and whispered, "Who is that man?" Wordlessly, the room turned their attention to Carl. Some smiled awkwardly, sensing the prank's cruel setup. Others looked embarrassed. Gregory, however, raised a hand for silence. Everyone stopped talking. "I don't know him personally," the CEO began, his voice calm but firm. "But I see the way he carries himself, the way he treats people without expecting anything in return. That is more leadership than some people in this room will ever show." The room went quiet. Not the polite kind of quiet, but the sort that makes you realize you've been wrong. Silence filled every corner of the restaurant. Jessica looked at Carl with new eyes. She couldn't help but smile warmly, and Carl, still a little unsure, felt a strange mix of pride and humility. "Carl," the CEO continued, "I want you to come to the office next week. Not for a date, not for a joke, but to talk about a new position we're creating. We need people like you, people who understand humanity." The prank, once meant to humiliate, had transformed into something beautiful. Carl, the man everyone overlooked, had become a reminder of what truly matters: kindness, integrity, and the quiet power of being oneself. As Carl left the restaurant that night, he didn't just walk with a lighter step. He walked knowing that sometimes the world notices even when we least expect it, and that genuine goodness, no matter how small it seems, always leaves a mark. The office prank had failed, but Carl's heart had won. The next week, Carl walked into the Langley and Hart office with a nervous but steady resolve. Gone was the mop and janitor's uniform. In its place, a crisp shirt and slacks that had seen better days but looked presentable. He felt out of place, but he also felt alive. Gregory, the CEO, was waiting in a small conference room. The same quiet authority that had silenced the restaurant now softened into something warm. "Carl," he said, standing to greet him, "I've been thinking. We're creating a new community liaison program, something that connects employees, clients, and the larger neighborhood. We need someone who genuinely cares, someone who sees people, not just numbers. I want you to lead it." Carl blinked, trying to find words. "Me, but I'm just a janitor." "That's exactly why you're perfect," Gregory replied. "You see the world as it is. You notice people. That's rare, Carl." Over the next few weeks, Carl threw himself into the role. He organized volunteer events, mentored interns, and quietly solved disputes with empathy. Employees who had once laughed at his awkwardness now sought his advice. Jessica, too, became a close friend, and their relationship deepened, not with jokes, but with mutual respect and laughter born of real connection. One afternoon, Carl noticed a young intern, Mia, sitting alone in the cafeteria, looking overwhelmed. He walked over, offered her a seat, and simply asked, "Rough day?" Mia nodded, tears welling. "I don't know if I belong here." Carl smiled gently. "I used to feel the same way, but it helps to have someone listen. Want to talk?" By the end of the week, Mia was smiling again, contributing ideas in meetings, even daring to lead a small project. Carl's simple act of noticing, of kindness, had sparked confidence in someone who had felt invisible. Word of Carl's impact reached the entire company. Employees began showing small acts of compassion, holding doors, sharing lunches, checking in on coworkers. It became a ripple effect, a quiet revolution of human decency, all sparked by one man who had always swept the floors in silence. Months later, at the company holiday party, Gregory raised a glass. To Carl, he said, "A man who reminded us that humanity is not in titles or offices, but in hearts. Thank you for showing us the best of ourselves." The applause was warm, genuine, and Carl, who had once been the punchline of a joke, stood quietly at the center, a small, humble smile on his face. In that moment, he realized that life's greatest surprises often come when we least expect them, and that the simplest acts of kindness could echo far beyond what we imagine. And somewhere in the crowd, Jessica nudged him. "See?" she whispered. "I told you. You were unforgettable." Carl chuckled softly. "Not me," he said. "All of us, just noticing each other." And for the first time in his life, Carl felt completely, wonderfully seen,